Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me at Evolutionary Energy Arts once again. This is a review I've been meaning to do forever because I feel like this is one of the most important movies of our time, which might sound crazy because it's an obscure little flick that many people probably never saw. It's a cult classic type of movie that people in the know, people that have discovered it, can quickly see. It's a commentary on our reality, and it's a commentary on entire philosophical systems, including basically the Gnostic system, but you will also see elements of Buddhism and so many other in this movie. And this movie is so key, and those of you that are flat earthers, people that believe the earth is flat, well, here is probably the only circumstance wherein I would agree if we are living in this situation and we did not know it. It's a great movie. It really is. It's such a deep philosophical commentary and very entertaining, and hardly recommended. This came out in 1998, and it was the movie that they believe inspired The Matrix to be made. And it starts with basically the lead character, who is played by Rufus Sewell, and he just wakes up in this disgusting looking bathroom in a nasty, gnarly looking tub, and he has no memory, no recollection of who he is. And see that there's so many statements on our reality. So right off the bat, it's like you could look at this as birthing. And here we are. Boom, we're born into a world and we can't remember who we are, and right off the bat he feels something's wrong. He has glimpses and flashes of memories that just pop up, but he doesn't even know who he is. He has to ask, who am I? He doesn't even know who he is. But yet there is something in his core that is just beckoning him and letting him know that things aren't what they are, seem to be. Reality is not quite right. There is something wrong here. This just does not feel right. So it's really such a cool movie to watch unfold. One of the things with him, he is somebody that can see past the illusions, and especially as the movie goes on, he starts to figure things out while everybody else is totally asleep. Most of our world is completely asleep. They are just sleepwalking. And there's so many movies out there, and I think most of the zombie movies are really talking about the masses, the bulk of the population being nothing but zombies, because they are totally unaware of the fact that the reality they live in is an illusion that's been manufactured to keep them in a certain mindset. And so, for instance, in one scene, he's speaking to one of the other main characters, who is like a police officer that's investigating a murder of which he suspects that the main character is the murderer. And the main character here, Rufus Sewell, says to him, "Haven't you noticed there's no sun? That it's always night?" And the main character, he's noticed this, even though his mind has been apparently wiped clean, besides a few trickling memories that come through. But he sees it, whereas the other characters are oblivious to the fact that the sun never rises. It's always dark. It's always dark. Hence Dark City. But people are completely unaware of this. And he has these memories of Shell Beach and sunlight and blue skies and ocean and birds. And he has other memories of childhood and pleasant memories, but there's just something wrong there. He just feels like it's an illusion. There's something wrong. And so this movie is so Gnostic in so many ways. For sure. Because the whole thing feels like a dream world. It feels completely like a dream world. And Rufus Sewell's character here He's able to pick up on that, where everybody else is just oblivious. Now he sees her, and that triggers more memories. And of course he's entranced by her. And she's a sultry singer that he just feels there's a connection with. But yet her programming isn't something that he felt right off the bat was the truth. And it's like I don't want to give away all the details of the movie because I really want you guys to go and watch it. But at the same time, I'm going to cover some of the major things in it. So I'll leave some of it for you guys to uncover anyway. But it's just such a good movie that will really get you thinking, especially all my fellow co-conspirator nuts that realize that we do live in a matrix, that we do live in a manufactured reality that's controlled by some strangers, as this movie portrays them. And these are some of the strangers that strike fear into humans, and they have the uncanny ability just to look at a person and tell them sleep, and they'll sleep. And then they could do whatever they want to that person. And so we have these strangers who appear to be human-ish, but creepy for sure. And they are doing experiments on the entire population in this case. Every single man, person, child on Dark City is part of the experiment. And these experiments are the whole reason for everything. It's all basically something that these strangers are trying to figure out, because humans have emotions that they don't have. Humans are just different than them, and they can't quite understand us. So every night they stop the world. Every night they rearrange the world in different ways. Through the power of their mind, they can make the buildings rise and fall. And in one scene, you see a couple that's impoverished, living in a dump and, eating bowls of slop, that's all they could afford to eat. And then the strangers make everybody go to sleep every night at a certain time, right around midnight. Boom. Everybody just falls asleep no matter what's going on. And no matter what's happening, all the cars stop, trains stop, everything stops. Everybody sleeps. And then the strangers rearrange the entire world using the powers of their mind. They call it tuning. And they have the aid of giant machines that rearrange the city. And so they take people like that poor couple, and then they rearrange it so that now they're all of a sudden living in a mansion, and they're ultra rich. And they're eating like 10-course meals, out of fine china, and sipping the best wine. And they do this in order to find out what's at the core. What if you took a poor person and made them rich? Would they all of a sudden change because of the wealth, or would they still basically be a good person? If they had evil inclinations when they were poor, would they become, good when they're rich, or vice versa? Just to see, is the soul, is the entity a certain way independent of its circumstances? So they're forever changing circumstances, and husbands and wives will become brothers and sisters. And then they'll become people that didn't even know each other, and then see how they interact. So they change every societal structure, they change every relationship, and just basically play with people and test them and see. And, of course you can see how this echoes through a lot of different books, like say the Book of Job being tested. Or of course, if you get into the Nag Hammadi texts, it's very, very much like the Archons. These guys are just like the Archonic forces that are playing with humans and feeding off them in various ways. So it's a fascinating concept. And I've watched this movie many times since I own it, and each time I feel like a deeper sense of getting it, Kiefer Sutherland, who, one of my favorite actors there, he's great. He plays this, mad scientist character who is fully human and who is working with the strangers and injecting in the humans different things in this serum he injects them with. A little bit of like wealth, a little bit of intellect, a little bit of power, a little bit of ego, and so he could change people's identities, give them new identities, and that's part of the whole thing, which he does as they experiment on the people. And then basically what we head towards is, as our lead character keeps discovering more and more, we find that he's exceptional, or he appears to be exceptional anyway. So in some ways he's like Neo in the Matrix, or you could look at him as a messianic type of figure. Or we don't even know exactly why he's different. They never really get into that. Why is he more awake than others? Do the others have the same potential as he does? It's something that isn't really clearly answered. But as he grows in power, he ends up killing some of these strangers. And eventually it ends up becoming a giant battle between the head of the strangers and Murdoch, who is the main character. And Murdoch, to the stranger's horror, has the ability to tune like they do. So he has psychic powers that the strangers have, that no other human has ever shown. And when the strangers are killed, it turns out they're not even really human. They're kind of this energetic cross between like an insect and some sort of crab, crustacean like being, so they're almost reminiscent of like the early Alien, when the aliens in the movie Alien are first like going and coming out of bodies, except for a little bit more clear and maybe a little more electromagnetic feeling. But so we find out and discover that the aliens are not humanoid. They are actually just using the bodies of the dead humans. They're reanimating the bodies of the dead humans to inhabit. So they're not even humanoid in reality. And so at the climax of the movie, John Murdoch, realizing that he has all these powers and he's growing exponentially in power, faces off against the head alien in this massive psychic warfare, in which he ends up destroying the head alien, destroying everything that gave the aliens power. And then we get to see really what's kind of going on here. It's the fact that it wasn't even a planet in the first place. It was just simply a gigantic spaceship. And here's your flat earthers. This is the only way I would believe that we're living on a flat earth, is that the fact that it's been basically a giant ship the whole time, and it's not even a planet that we're on. So maybe there are other planets and other stars and stuff are real, but the planet that we are on is nothing but a gigantic spaceship, and that's what it turns out to be. A flat disk in the sky, and these giant machines underneath it that can rearrange it and change it at will, and that's guided by the powers of the mind. And so in the climax, at the end of the movie, Murdoch turns the ship, because the whole time it was facing away from a sun. We don't even know if it's our sun or if it's just a sun. But it turns it towards the sun, so that the world is no longer dark, and the darkness is dissolved in the light, because the strangers were of the darkness and they cannot tolerate the light. So the light destroys them, but the humans are fine, and the humans thrive in the light. And so he turns the spaceship to face the sun and creates that heaven on earth that he always wanted, that beautiful, bright world. And of course he ends up having his love interest, and everything is happily ever after. So a fantastic movie, really, on many deep esoteric levels. So is this our reality? What are your guys' thoughts on this? And again, please do go out and watch this movie, because it's way shorter than watching the whole Matrix series, and yet gives you the same sort of info in probably like a minute and an hour and 40 minutes, something like that. It's not even that long of a movie. But very powerful for those of you that are able to see into the Matrix, and those of you that are conspiracy nuts and alien believers. Very, very interesting movie. Very, very thought-provoking. Heartily recommended. Look forward to your comments on this. And flat earthers, is this what you believe in? Is this what you believe in? That we're on just a spaceship? In that case, I would put it as a slight possibility. But what are your thoughts? Please, thumbs up, help support the channel, share, and subscribe if you have not subscribed yet, and join our growing family. And I thank you all for visiting and joining me here at Evolutionary Energy Arts. Truly appreciate you guys and love reading your comments. Take care.